later on. Good evening and welcome to another live stream Dharma session. This evening we have Bhante Jayasara with us once again. As usual, we'll start with chanting the Retina Sutta, and then after chanting the Retina Sutta, then we'll have guided meditation followed by a Dhamma talk and discussion. So if you're interested in joining the chanting, you can find the link at the top of the live chat, and we'll chant together. So please join in. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Yani bhutani samagatani bhummani vayani va antaleke sabeva bhuta sumana bhavantu atopi sakacha sunantu basitam tasmahi bhutani sameta sabe metam karota manusiya pajaya Devacharato chaharanti eva lingtasmahine rakata apamata yankinchivitang idavahurang vasage suvayang ratanang panitang nano samangati tathagatena idampi buddhe ratanang panitang Etena sachena suvati hotu Kayang viragang amatang panitang Yadanchaga sakya muni samahito Natena dhammena samati kinchi Dampi dhamme ratanang panitang Etena sachena suvati hotu Yang buddha seto parivannai suching samadhi manantare kanyamahu samadhina tena samona vijjati dampi dhamme ratanang panitang etena sachena suvati hotu Ye pungala atasatang pasata chatari etani yugani honti Te dakineya sugata sasavaka te sudinnani mahapalani Edampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena sachena suvati hotu Ye sopayutta manasa dalhena nekamino gotamasasanamhi Te patipatamatang vigaiha laddamudanim buddhing punjamana Edampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena sachena suvati hotu Yatinda kilo pataving sitosia chatu bivate via sampakampiyo Tatu pamang sampurisang vadami yo ariya sachani avecha passati Edampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena sachena suvati hotu Ye Arya Sachani Vipavayanti Gambhira Panyena Sudesitani Kinchapi Te Unti Pusapamata Te Bhavangatamangadiyanti Idampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena sachena subhati hotu. Sahava sadasana sampadaya taya sudhamma jahita bhavanti. Sakaya deti vitike chitancha silambatang vapi yadati kinchi. Chatuhapaye hichavipamuto chachapitanani abhambokatu. Idampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena sachena subhati hotu. Kinchapi sokam mankabroti papakam kayena vacha urachetasava. Avambo sota sapate chadaya avamata de tapada sabuta. Idampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena sachena subhati hotu. Vanapagumbe yatapusitage gemmanamase patamasmi gemhe. Tatopamang dhammavarangade saine vanagaming varamangitaya. Idampi buddhe ratanang panitang etena sachena subhati hotu. Varo varanyo varado varaharo anuttaro dhamma varangade sai. Idampi buddhe ratanang panitang etena sachena subhati hotu. Kinang puranang navang nati sambhavang virata chittayatike bhavasming. Tekina bija virulhin shanda nimanti dirayatayang paripo. Vidampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena sachena subhati hotu. Yani taputani samagatani bhummani vayani vahantaleke. Tathagatam deva manusa pujitam buddham namasama subhati hotu. Yani bhutani samagatani bhummani vayani vahantaleke. Tathagatam deva manusa pujitam dhammam namasama subhati hotu. Yani bhutani samagatani bhummani vayani vahantaleke. Tathagatam deva manusa pujitam sangham namasama subhati hotu. Etena sachavanjena dukhavupasamantu te. Etena sachavanjena vayavupasamantu te. Etena sachavanjena rogavupasamantu te. All right. So welcome to some friends checking in. So welcome Jessica, Adriana, Lucas, Liz, Ethan, Edward, Grant, and Kevin. And Secret Spy Records, I forget her name. Anyway, Lexi, that's it.
Lexi. Yeah, good question.
So happy to see all of you joining in. At this time, we'll have some guided meditation led by Bhante Jayasara.
Okay, friends. Take your meditative posture position, whatever is comfortable and stable for you. And you know, most of you know the drill by now. We'll take some time, a couple minutes, to scan through our body to make sure that our body is set up in a comfortable and stable position. Start from the tips of your toes and work up to the top of your head. Bringing your awareness to each part of the body as you scan slowly through. Try to come in tune with whatever feeling arises in your awareness, such as the feeling of your feet pressing against the floor, of your legs pressing against each other, crossed on the cushion, etc. Bring your awareness to whatever feeling arises and examine it closely. See if you can find any imbalance or small feelings of uncomfortableness or little bits of pain. Now is the time, as you find these things, to adjust your posture. Because small things now turn into bigger things later. As you're scanning, if you have trouble coming in tune with a feeling, you can prompt yourself by asking, what do I see? What do I feel? And then usually something will present itself. Remember that your lower body acts as a foundation for the stability and balance of your upper body. If your lower body is not balanced, and stable, your upper body will not be able to be as well. You will strain yourself trying to keep your upper body stable. So really try to make sure your lower body is stable, your buttocks equally positioned on the cushion, your legs set up in a way that promotes stability. And then as you move into your upper body, do the same for your elbows and your hands. Notice how their placement affects the balance of your upper body. And when you're ready, setting up your body, take 3 deep breaths. And then let the body go. Let the breath go. Remember, the breath doesn't need you to do its job. It's been breathing for this body since the moment you were born. It will continue to do so until the second you die. Your job is just to investigate the breath. Observe this body breathing in and breathing out. Remember to practice laying down your world. Lay down your burdens for the time of this meditation and follow the breath. You may feel the breath most prominently in your nostril area as it goes in and out of your nostrils. You can place your awareness there. Or if that's troubling, you can place your awareness at the rise and fall of the chest. Or simply abide with the understanding that this body is breathing in and breathing out. try to become aware of the various feelings surrounding the breath, the bodily feeling, observing the process of this body breathing in and out, keeping you alive for a few more seconds each time. Whenever you get distracted away from the breath, and the mind has had enough and decides to go anywhere in the world or the universe, to the past and the present and the future, whenever you have an awareness that you've been distracted, first acknowledge that distraction. Recognize that you've been taken away from your home. Then practice letting go of the distraction. And gently return back to the breath. The breath is home base. No matter how many times we get distracted, we want to come back to the breath. Remember, when we practice letting go of a distraction, this means that we don't try to get agitated and push it away, nor do we want to get attracted to the thought or the idea or the story and get wrapped up in it and think more about it. We simply want to just practice letting it go, letting it be, giving no more energy, and returning gently to the breath. As we come back to the breath over and over, and as each time we stay longer with the breath, you may notice, checking in with the mind, that the mind is becoming more calm and tranquil, or not. If it is, see if you can try to observe more characteristics of the breath. Sometimes the breath is long and deep, sometimes short and shallow. Investigate these changes. Watch how something that is seemingly very boring and uniform actually is moving, changing, morphing, Observe these characteristics of the breath. For the last few minutes of this meditation, I'd like to lead you through a guided contemplation. Continue to follow your breath while I give instruction. The Buddha encouraged us to reflect on 5 things. He said, whether you're a woman or a man, a layperson or ordained, nobody is exempt. Everybody should reflect on these 5 things often. Some of these reflections might bring up some strong emotions or aversion. And if they do, you can feel free to stop. But these are very important basic things that the Buddha wants us to remember. So now repeat after me as I go through them. I am subject to aging. I am not exempt from aging. All things age, move towards decay. from humans to trees, planets, suns, galaxies, even the universe. We are not exempt from aging and decay. Now repeat. I am subject to illness and disease. I am not exempt from illness and disease. All living creatures, even the trees, are subject to the body breaking down in various ways. This is part of the nature of having this organic machine. Just as our cars and mechanic things break down, so too does this body. I repeat, I am subject to death. I am not exempt from death. All beings, Buddha says, how can it be that that which is impermanent, subject to change, how can it be that that which arises does not cease? All beings, and even the planets and suns, one day, eons from now, our sun will die. That is the nature of this existence. And now repeat. I will be separated from everyone and everything I hold dear. Due to old age, sickness, and death, the realities of this existence, it is only natural that one day we will be separated, whether it be tomorrow or decades from now. No union lasts forever. Work, family, friends, spouse, children. Eventually there is separation. And last, repeat, I am the owner of my actions, heir to my actions. Have my actions as my relative. Whatever I do, for good or ill, to that I shall be the heir. Buddha wants us to know that we are responsible for our actions, even if we do not wish to be or want to justify them away or anything like that. We are responsible. Our actions are our relative. They are close. So it behooves us to act in skillful ways, especially knowing that old age, sickness, and death are always looming.
Thank you, Bante, for leading us in meditation. And hello to a few more friends checking in. Hello, Melinda, Rich, AP, Priyakant, and Geeta. Happy to see you joining in. So this evening, we're to the 6th of the 8 aspects of the Noble Eightfold Path, which is right effort. So I'll go ahead and invite Bante J to give a Dharma talk on the subject. So please.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good evening, friends. So I've broken out the trusty book because right effort, as listed in the Noble Eightfold Path, is very wordy. But as we'll see after I go through the wordiness, it can actually be summed up pretty simply. So we'll go through the 4 parts of right effort. Determination to prevent unarisen evil, unwholesome states of mind from arising by making effort, arousing energy, applying mind, and striving. What did all that mean? What about the next one? Determination to develop wholesome mental states that have not yet arisen by making effort, arousing energy, applying mind, and striving. Sounds very wordy, doesn't it? Sounds very cumbersome. Wait till you see the Pali. Lots of interesting, tongue-twisty compound words there. So, what have we seen so far? Determination to abandon evil, unwholesome states that have arisen. Determination to abandon unwholesome states that have not yet arisen. Right? So think about that. Now we go to the last 2. Determination to maintain and perfect wholesome mental states already arisen, and to not allow them to disappear, to bring them to growth, to maturity, and to full perfection of development by making effort, arousing energy, applying mind, and striving. Yeah, I did miss one. I missed the 3rd one. Determination to develop the wholesome mental states that have not yet arisen by making effort, arousing energy, applying mind, and striving. All right. So that's right effort. Let's make it a little simpler. We're dealing with 2 things: skillful, wholesome action, unskillful, unwholesome action, right? So those are the 2 things. Let's make it a little easier. And so now under skillful action, all right, let's start with unskillful. So under unskillful action, there's unskillful qualities, mind states, habits, all kinds of things in our mind, right, that we have already with us. Unskillful habits, mind states, qualities, right? We all have them. And so the Buddha encourages us to work on abandoning them, letting them go, or replacing them with skillful. And then we have, unskillful qualities, mind states, habits that have not yet arisen. So for Buddha's sake, don't make more. Don't create more unskillful habits, right? You already have a bunch. We all do, right? So the Buddha is saying, work on abandoning the unskillful stuff that you have and not making more, not building up more unskillful states, right? Not building up more unskillful habits, right? Buddha talks about anusayas, underlying habitual tendencies that we have, right? We have all of these habitual tendencies, some good, some not so good, right? So for the unskillful, we want to work on abandoning the ones we have and not building ones that we don't have, right? Let other people or let the ether have those unskillful things. We don't want them. Right? So now the other side. We have skillful, good, wholesome qualities and habits, right? We do good things. Maintain that, build that. Don't stop, right? Don't let them go away. Build that skillful habit, those skillful mind states, those skillful tendencies, right? And then there's skillful mind states and habits and tendencies and qualities that we don't have. Build those up. Take those on, right? Take those on and build them up. Train yourself, right? Right effort, right? By striving, right? Applying mind, diligent effort, striving, all of these words, right? That they say it at the end. By applying mind and striving. Right? So this is perfectly, I think, encapsulated in two words, kusala and akusala. Kusala means skillful, wholesome, good, right? And akusala, unskillful, unwholesome. Right? So this is the balance, right? We're constantly working with skillful and unskillful, wholesome and unwholesome, right? This was, we've already gone, both myself and then Bhante the next day went over one of the best suttas for this, right? I'm not going to do it again because we already did, but Tvetavataka Sutta, where you put your thoughts into skillful and unskillful. That's a very good technique for working with right effort, right? And when you observe, when you practice very diligently, very skillfully, you practice your mindfulness of breathing, you practice satipatthana, you get to see how the unskillful qualities cause you suffering, okay? And how the skillful qualities can lead you away from suffering. Right? This is in the Buddha when he gave a summary. He said something to the effect of, how do you know what is Dhamma? What leads away from suffering, what leads to freedom and to peace is Dhamma, right? So as you're practicing and you have, working with all these qualities and tendencies and habits, you can see for yourself, is this leading to peace and letting go and contentment, or is it leading to suffering and attachment and a heavy mind? Right? That's important for right effort. Right? And this is effort, and Buddha talks a lot about, has a lot of different synonyms for these, right? Buddha is very big on developing energy, virya, effort, right, in the practice. The three biggest words that the Buddha uses most often when talking about a practitioner who's doing well, who's really practicing, is diligent, ardent, and resolute, right? This person is really doing everything they can to practice. The Buddha actually does not approve of laziness. Right? I think this morning, did we talk about champions and backsliding, right? I've never heard that I love the champions. Usually it's translated as leaders and backsliding. You don't want to be a champion in backsliding. You want to be a champion in moving forward, developing your skillful qualities, abandoning your unskillful qualities. Right? The Buddha does not approve of laziness in the practice. Actually, the Buddha says in the suttas, he says, there's only one time that I approve of laziness. What do you think that one time is? Okay. He says, the only time I approve of practicing being lazy is in practicing a badly expounded Dhamma and discipline. What does that mean? It means if somebody says, I encourage you to go out and kill people and steal and sleep with people's spouses and, you know, drink and do all kinds of bad stuff. That's when Buddha says you should be lazy. You should be lazy in doing unskillful things, but very diligent and ardent and resolute in practicing skillful things. Right? But it's important to know that there's a balance, right? Because we can really, you know, when the Buddha is really encouraging us to practice and all these kind of things, sometimes we can go too far, right? And this is where I have to break out the simile of Sona, right? Sona Sutta. The Buddha, it starts out with Sona, a bhikkhu, and he's practicing. He's really hardcore practicing. He's just got off, you know, my kind of guy. He likes walking meditation, right? And so it says he just stopped walking meditation until his feet bled, right? So he's really practicing really hard, right? And then he's like, you know, of the Buddha's disciples who really practices diligent, ardent, and resolute, I'm one. But yet, I see no benefit. Maybe I'll just, you know, my family has decent money. You know, maybe I'll just go back to lay life and just enjoy sensual pleasures. Right? And then the Buddha heard this with his mind, and he went, we know what that is, right? Like a strong man puts their hand this or like that. And he appeared in front of Sona. And he said, Sona, did you just say such and such? He's like, yes, Bhante, yes, I did. And he says, tell me something. When you were a layperson, were you skilled in playing the vina? And the vina is an interesting, is a very interesting stringed instrument in India. It's kind of like a cross between like a lute and a harp. If you go on YouTube and type in vina, you can see people playing it and stuff like that. And so he asked, were you skilled in playing this? And Sona says, yes, I was skilled in playing this. And he says, when you were tuning your vina, when the string was too tight, was it in tune and playable? And he says, no, Bhante. And I always like to add, as somebody who played guitar for years, any of you guys who've ever worked with string instruments, you know, as you're putting in a new string, if it gets too tight, it might snap and it might come for your eye and do all kinds of things like that, right? That's what happens, right? When we get so tight, we're practicing so hard and we snap, right? So we don't want to have an overly tight practice that will cause us to snap. And so then the Buddha says, when your string was too lax, was it in tune and playable? And he says, no, Bhante. And so he says, when your strings were just right, were they in tune and playable? Yes, Bhante. He says, just like this, find the balance in your practice and pick up your theme. Right? What does that mean? The Buddha is saying that each of us have various inclinations and temperaments in various ways that our practices, while in many ways will be the same, in many ways they'll be different. Right? Like I've always been had a rough time with sitting meditation. So I've always liked to do walking meditation. I do sitting meditation as well. But then there's some people I know that don't want to do any walking meditation, right? All practices are different. The way how hard we push ourselves are different. right? So we have to find our own balance, right? So when you hear these things, make effort, all of these things, just make sure that you don't overdo it, right? You're trying to find a good balance to the practice. And this is something that I can attest to because, at least for the first couple of years, it's always kind of like up and down, up and down, up and down. But when you get into a nice flow, you find your theme, and then all it is just practice. I'm just gonna go practice, and everything's nice and even, and then something happens and it starts to go like that again. But you can find your theme, right? Find your balance. Because you can I'll give you an example. Like there's times, like this was years ago, maybe about 8 years ago, when I was first coming to Bhavana Society during my first retreats, and I was really trying to like force myself to sit longer and all these kind of things. And I was at the meditation hall during a retreat, and I was doing good, and I was like, I even went did the earth witnessing posture. I said, may my blood and skin dry up, and I'm not going to get up from this seat, right? And so I'm like this, and I'm pushing my leg down like this. I'm really pushing hardcore so I can sit. And then I actually got into some pretty deep concentration. It was kind of nice. All my pains went away and everything. But then what happened when I got out of that concentration? And I got up, and I recognized that I wrecked my hip and my knee. But thankfully, it wasn't permanent. I have a lot of trouble with this hip and knee in general, which is a burden for me for sitting. But I hurt myself so bad that I couldn't really actually sit for a week to meditate, right? And I realized I didn't have the wisdom to push myself in the correct way at that point. I pushed myself too far, that I hurt myself, right? And so this is, as you develop in the practice, as you become, develop more wisdom and insight, then now is the time to push myself. Now is the time to strive harder. And now is the time to back off. Now is the time to have self-compassion. And now is the time to try to just be a little bit more balanced, right? So this is effort. This is a very important aspect, right? To develop effort and energy and zeal to want to practice, right? When you do that, if you have energy and zeal and desire to practice, it actually doesn't take that much effort. It's just so effortless. You want to just keep practicing. But sometimes you have to develop the effort to do that. And this is also not just, remember, this is not just when you're sitting, right? Your mind is always going. Always unskillful things are arising. Always skillful things are arising. So you can practice right effort, no matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, at work, in the car, waiting in line somewhere. Right effort is right there. Your practice doesn't end when you get off the cushion, right? Why? Because unskillful mind states and thoughts don't end when you get off the cushion. They're always there, right? So you always want to develop. When you become an avatar of the Noble Eightfold Path, you encompass the Noble Eightfold Path, and it's always there. Your job doesn't end, right? It's not like, all right, well, 3 to 4, I did my meditation, and I'm done, right? You're always practicing, because there's always opportunities to practice, right? Always observing. Let me build up the skillful. Let me abandon the unskillful, right? And Bhante said it, I think, this morning in a different, he said it kind of in his own words, but I knew what he was saying, right? In the Ovada Patimokkha, the Buddha gives advice. Before there was all kinds of Vinaya stuff, he gave just this advice to the bhikkhus and the people every day. And it's abandon what is evil, what is unskillful. Perform what is skillful. Perform what is good, right? Cleanse the mind. This is the teaching of all the Buddhas, right? So this is the whole practice. This is why right effort is not just one thing you do. It is the whole practice. It's kind of like the engine behind the practice, right? It keeps you going. It keeps you wanting to practice and all these things, right? And there's a reason why I kind of went a little deep at the end of the there with what's called the 5 subjects for contemplation, right? Buddha wants us to always reflect on these, right? If you've never done any kind of death meditation or these kind of things in Buddhism, they're done for a bunch of different things, but one of the main things they're done for is to keep us from being complacent, to keep us from getting too lax, to keep us from like, yeah, you know, I mean, yeah, I know death is coming, but that's probably like 20 years from now, right? So there's a wonderful thing here, and I want to read this that gives you a little bit of a. It's from the death chanting here. Let me see if I can find it. But one of the main reasons why the Buddha wants us to reflect on these realities is so that we keep our zeal, so we don't become champions in backsliding. Oh, I'm going to get old eventually. I'm going to get sick eventually. Why am I doing this? I'll just take it easy. So we don't want to be champions in backsliding. Let me see if I can find this here to kind of end our little section on right effort. I guess I can't. All right, well, basically the line is something like, no bargain with mortality can keep death away, right? So basically this chanting is like, there's no bargaining with reality. There's no, this is coming. Old age, sickness, and death are coming, right? And this helps us if we reflect on this, remind this, right? The Buddha specifically says, what do you see if you go to church, right? If you go to a Catholic or Christian church, or if you're a Buddhist person and you go to temple, what do you often most see? What? Old people, right? The Buddhists, even 2,600 years ago, I was raised Catholic, so that's I was often one of the younger people because my mom, we always went to church every week and all these kind of things. And the Buddha says in the sutras, 2,600 years ago, it is usually the old people who go to who practice. It says, don't wait until you're old. Start when you're young, right? So it's very important when we think about developing effort in the practice that we don't fall into any traps, right? That is like, I got enough time. Right? We want to continue to practice, right? With our own theme, right? We want to continue to practice skillfully, well, diligently, right? And doing in such a way that we continuously, slowly, over time, with baby steps, abandon the unskillful, develop the skillful, and cleanse our minds, become bright and free, even more bright than the devas of streaming radiance, a wonderful, bright, clean mind, free of unskillfulness. So with that, we can go to the questions.
Well, thank you very much, Bhante, for sharing words of Dhamma. So at this time, if anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free to type them in the live chat and I'll read them out for Bhante Jayasara to answer. So first question, AP is asking, what are some examples of the main unwholesome factors that prevent one from applying the right effort precept?
Well, obviously the examples of kind of, like I just said, losing our understanding of our reality. Like we can die at any time. Like we can get sick. We can. Right now, we're healthy, or at least healthy enough to be able to practice, but there might be a time where we won't be able to practice, right? Or maybe we can, there's an excuse that I never take, because the excuse is I'm too busy to meditate, right? But our minds will say that. Right? And this is why I never take it, right? Because I worked for Child Protective Services. I worked the job that was 9 to 5 plus emergencies all the time. But I meditated, and I found time to meditate, and I find time to go to retreats and try time to practice, right? If you find the practice important enough and beneficial enough, you'll find priority. But you have to watch out for your mind, right? The mind will be like, I'm too tired to practice now. I'm kind of busy to practice now. Like when I tried to develop a meditation practice, I really struggled with trying to meditate at night, right? Because at night I get back from work, and like at 4:45, I thought I was going home at 5, and then an emergency comes, and I don't get home till 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, I just want to reward my mind with some entertainment or something. I just want to tune out. Meditation is hard, right? So you got to watch out for all these kind of excuses that your mind might want to trick you with, right? So that you try to meditate, even if it's hard, right? Even if it's like I always say that even if you sit down and it's only for 5 minutes, you won because you sat down. Your mind is really fighting you. I don't want to sit. I'm busy. I'm this, I'm that. I'd rather watch whatever TV or whatever, right? If you're able to kind of go against the mind state, go against your defilements, and sit for 5 minutes, then you win. That's a skillful thing, right? Even if it's not, you wanted to sit, you say, I will sit for 20 minutes, and you sit for 5, right? Sitting for 5 is better than not sitting at all. Right? So you have to watch out for all these kind of excuses and kind of things that the mind will throw at you, right? To sabotage your effort to practice. I'll give you a personal example. Like sometimes when I was at Bhavana, and at night, I'd be meditating, and I'd be doing my walking meditation. Most of the time I do walking before I sit. So I'm doing my walking meditation, and my mind's like, you worked hard today. You meditated already. Why don't you just go back to your room and just rest, just enjoy. Why are you doing this? And I'd be like, no, shut up. I tell my mind, I'm not listening to you, Mara. I see you, Mara, right? And then sometimes that would be just getting over that hump would mean another 45 minutes of good meditation. Sometimes Mara would come back 3 minutes later with another excuse. Like the first one, he's like, oh, well, guess what? Jay figured out that trick. Let's come back with another trick. Let's come from another angle, right? And then maybe Mara comes back with another angle, and I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. Okay, and I walk out of the meditation hall, right? But at least I stayed that much little longer, right? So you have to watch that with your mind. There's always going to be something that's going to come up that your mind will want to use it as an excuse to sabotage your practice, to not practice, to rather do something else, right? And so sometimes that takes skillful means. Sometimes you have to oftentimes I especially in the early days of meditating, I felt like I was trying to like compromise with a child. Like my mind said, come on, let's just do it for a couple of minutes. Let's just do it. We won't do this and we won't do that. We won't do that. We'll just do this for a couple of minutes. The mind's like, okay, I'll do it for a couple of minutes. It's like you have to kind of like convince yourself to do it, right? Just for a little bit. Sometimes you have to, because sometimes the mind's like, a half hour. Oh, I don't want to. Even I've been meditating for 15 years, and still sometimes, if I'm like, okay, we're going to sit for an hour, I'm like, an hour, right? This is why, it's like actually at Bhavana, when I would sit, there's like 4 clocks all over here. Here in the meditation hall, there's no clocks. I kind of like that. It makes it a little easier, because if we're going to sit for an hour, I'm not like, what time, right? So, you have to watch all of these things, right? The mind is going to come up with all kinds of innovative and interesting ways to sabotage your practice, right? And it behooves us to try to go against those, right? Sometimes when I'm walking meditation and my mind's like, oh, I don't want to sit. I hate sitting. And then I just stop right there and I go and sit, right? Just go right against this is a big thing with Ajahn Chah. Ajahn Chah taught that all the time. Go against your defilements. Go against your mind's like, I don't want to do this. Well, go do it, right? Troll your mind a little bit. Go against your defilements. Even if it's only for a little bit, it's okay, right? At least you did it, right? You're not backsliding there. You're moving forward. Maybe if it's just a little bit, just a little step by step, but at least you're not backsliding. So make sure that you keep that in mind. Watch for the trickery of your mind to hurt your effort and energy to practice.
And Grant asks, what would be a practical, useful way to apply right effort to maintain a balanced practice between seated practice and off the cushion practice?
Well, I think I kind of, in giving my own examples of like the desire to do one or the other and pushing myself to do the other, I think that kind of, answers some of that. But, what it takes is it takes some time to kind of develop the habit of doing that balance and of understanding the importance of that balance, right? The Buddha wants us, he says, to practice whether we're sitting, standing, walking, or lying down, right? So we want to be able to practice in all of our postures. And sometimes, that means like you can, balance it, like I'm going to do 30 minutes of that, 30 minutes of that. But sometimes it means that your body, that your practice is kind of calling for something different, right? Like usually I'll do, half walking, half sitting, right? Because I don't normally really sit peacefully past a half hour, right? Yeah. But sometimes my seclusion is getting deeper and my mind is inclining to more wanting to sit. So sometimes I'll do less walking and I'll do more sitting, right? So you have to that's part of knowing you're taking up your theme, knowing how your practice in your mind and your body's working. You can be in tune with these things. Like this intuition is telling you, now I think it's time for sitting more, right? Interestingly for me lately, it's the opposite. Like my walking meditation has kind of gone out the door in many ways. And it's become very unmindful. So now I'm trying to kind of be in tune more with how my walking meditation was in the past, which is very powerful and mindful, right? And so you have to, that's what taking up your theme is, right? You're observing that your practice is always changing, right? It's not, even when you develop a certain rhythm, right? It's not going to be the same. It's going to be wavy. Things are going to be different here and there, right? And you're going to be more inclined to do one thing or another. But keeping in mind, right? Keeping in mind and understanding that our practice is in all of the postures, then it'll be easier for us to keep up our effort in saying, okay, I've done some of this. Now I wanted to do this, right? And you have to develop your own setup. Like most of you who've heard me talk before, say like, my normal setup at Bhavana for many years was to do about, if we were doing an hour of meditation, I would do about 20 minutes of walking. And then I'd go out to the atrium of the meditation hall where Jack was. Jack is the hanging skeleton at Bhavana. There's no hanging skeleton here. That's one thing you guys do need. And I would go hang out with Jack, and I do my mindfulness of death practice, and I do metta practice If you do mindfulness of death practices and like these kind of things, it's really powerful to do metta right after, right? And then after doing all that walking and mindfulness of death and metta, my mind was so calm and wonderful. And I just like go right to sit with a calm, clear mind right off the bat, right? And so and then I'd sit for about a half hour. Right? So I developed that. It kind of developed naturally from my practice and as I was doing it. So that's part of your effort, is kind of seeing and understanding how it develops, seeing what your practice needs, right? You're going to develop that intuition, right? That certain times are going to be for certain things. Certain times you need to push yourself. Certain times you need to back up, okay? And so you'll understand, now I should do walking more, right? Now I should do sitting more. Now I want to try to incorporate both, right? So that's very important in the practice. It's a skill that you develop the longer you practice, in knowing what you need in the practice most at that time.
Well, that's the last question. So if you have any other questions, this is your opportunity. Or if there's no more questions, then we can go ahead and wrap up for the evening. So thank you, Bhante Jay, for sharing Dhamma. And thank you, everyone who's joined in. Liz has a question. Okay. She says, might you share a typical walking meditation? Some injuries make sitting meditation difficult, so guidance in walking meditation would be helpful.
All right. Well, yeah. Well, first of all, there is a world of different walking meditation techniques. Well, there's some time, but I don't want to go too deep into it. Walking meditation literally changed my life. Literally. It changed my practice. It changed everything. So I'm a big walking meditation proponent, because like I said, I've always struggled with sitting, even though I still do it because it's still important. But though I've tried probably 24 types of walking meditation, and Theravada and Mahayana, right? There's lots and lots, because the Buddha never gave one specific, like, this is how you should walking meditate. You just see in the suttas that they're all practicing walking meditation. The Buddha, the disciples, everybody, right? So we know it's very important. What I do, for me personally, is actually the very first one that I ever learned. And so what I normally do is, I'll start with standing, and I'll try to ground myself, right while I'm standing. So you start out with a standing meditation, and I'll ground myself by putting my awareness to my feet, right? The feeling of the feet pressing against the ground, right? This is especially, I was just doing walking meditation barefoot in the grass in the park this this afternoon. It was great, right? So you really ground yourself with, from your feet touching the ground. So you bring that awareness to that. And then, you can take a few breaths if you like. You can ground yourself in the present. So you're taking a little bit of time to bring your awareness to the present, and in this particular technique, to the feet. And then you just start to walk. And you don't need to try to regulate the walk in any way. Now there's like Vipassana technique, walking meditations, where they walk very slowly, right? But in this technique that I practice, I just do a normal, regular pace, right? I'm not trying to, just like you're not trying to manipulate the breath, I'm not trying to manipulate my walking pace at all. I'm just walking, right? And sometimes in the beginning, that might actually be a faster pace, but as I do it, my pace slows down, right? Because my mind is slowing down. And so as I'm walking, what I do is I'll just keep my awareness as much as I can on the feeling of the feet, right? So it's pressing down, and then as the foot's lifting, right? And as you get more refined, just like when you follow your breath and your mind becomes more tranquil, you can see more of the breath. When you do that with your feet while you're walking, you can see, understand, and you can observe more of what's going on with the feet, right? You can actually start to feel the pressure of gravity pushing down as you're lifting, you can feel the weight of your feet, right? You can feel the tendons in your feet and up into your calf muscles, right? So you can observe a lot of things while you're walking, right? And so you're just doing that, and you go. I would suggest, if you're doing the normal walking pace walking meditation, at least 30 feet minimum, right? Because you need enough time to kind of get into the rhythm and get into the mindfulness of following your feet. Right? But if you do it too long, then it's too much time to kind of get distracted. So I try to do 30 to 60 feet. And you go to the end, and you stop, you pause, turn around, do the same thing. Ground yourself in your feet, bring your awareness to right now, and then start walking again. And that's it. There's nothing special. There's no extra technique. There's nothing you add. You just literally are doing that, back and forth, back and forth. And as you do it, your mind will become more calm, more tranquil, more peaceful. All of my first major insights happened while walking, right? So walking meditation is very powerful. Right? Buddha says there's 5 benefits to walking meditation. Let's see if I remember them all. First is that it's good for general health. It's good for striving in the practice, good for practicing well. It's good for long journeys. Right? Back in the Buddha's day, they didn't have cars, and monks weren't allowed to ride in carts unless they were sick. So if you were going somewhere, you were walking, right? So you practice for long journeys. It's good for general health. And the last one is, which is in many ways the most important one, is the concentration, the stillness gained from walking is durable. It's hard to lose. Why is that? When you're walking, like when I did most of my meditation practice, it was at my office in the morning before work. So when I was doing my walking meditation, there were cars going by, we were next to a major road, things were happening, people were walking, talking, and so I had all this kind of activity as I was doing my walking meditation, just going back and forth, and people looking at me like I'm crazy. What is this guy doing? Back and forth, right? So what did I do? I developed the ability to practice with all this kind of activity, right? And so that even helped me with my sitting meditation as well, because I could have noises and things would be less distracting and less annoying, right? This is also why I highly recommend meditating outside as much as possible, no matter what the weather. Endure and enjoy the cold. Endure and enjoy the heat. Meditate outside. It will be very beneficial for you, right? Even if it's just raining a little bit, take a rain poncho and just put it over you. That's good, right? If it's too hard, then probably not. But if you meditate outside, meditate with all kinds of distractions, it's beneficial. So walking meditation has a lot of benefits, and I highly suggest that you include that in your practice. As the Buddha says, be clearly aware and mindful when walking, standing, sitting, lying down. So all of our postures are prime real estate for the development of insight. Very important.
Okay, and the final question is, Adriana asks, can I request 3 over-the-top sadhus? So I think we'll go ahead and close the evening with 3 over-the-top sadhus.
Yes. And you might even get an Ajahn Brahm robe malfunction too. Let's see.
Yeah. So all together, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
All right, my robe stayed. That's good.
All right. So we'll see you all tomorrow morning
friends.
for more Suta study.
Practice well and be well.